Good afternoon and welcome to this week's Hydrogen Full Court Press feature interview, where we're looking to shed some light on the development surrounding hydrogen and in order to make it a viable energy source for the energy transition. This week's featured speaker is Dr. Christoph Noeres, the head of green hydrogen at Thyssenkrupp Nucera. Welcome, Dr. Christoph. And to kick off the interview, I'd like to asking you, where are we standing? Where is green hydrogen standing today in the energy transition conversation? Because we're seeing, for instance, like there was a lot of hype this year surrounding green hydrogen, same during the last year, and also we've started to have some debates surrounding the we've seen the energy security in Europe and other geographies being compromised to a certain extent. I welcome your thoughts on this initial question.
Yeah, well, very good morning, good afternoon, Ignacio. Thank you for having me here today. I think it's a real pleasure. And if you look backwards, the last 2.5, 3 years, we see an unbelievable speeding up of the whole situation. Green hydrogen is getting more and more important. And I think we are seeing a development from very small scale hydrogen project like R&D pilot scale in the last 10 years, which has started to move into industrial scale since 2020 and getting more and more speed over the last years, 2021, 2022. And I think that was what we stated at the very beginning in 2020. The real driver for green hydrogen is industrial scale, and that is just what now happening. We see the big projects coming, we see NEOM, we see Shell in Rotterdam. All these are multi-100 megawatt projects, even gigawatt scale projects, and they are moving forward, moving green hydrogen to a competitive situation. And even the last changes in our geopolitical situation regarding energy supply, security of energy supply, all this is pushing forward green hydrogen. So now green hydrogen is not only a key for decarbonization of the industry, of the society, no, it's also one of the keys to come for regions which are depending on energy imports to get more energy independent, to give them more resilience in their energy system. So I think all this shows it's getting more and more important day by day to invest into green hydrogen. So we see a very super big future for green hydrogen. And I think it's, as already stated, it is the beginning of the green hydrogen revolution.
Certainly, you can see actually many green hydrogen projects popping out in virtually all the geographies of the world. We see that in Europe, here in the Middle East, too, in Australia. And I'd like to ask you, what are you seeing in terms of in these areas? What are you seeing in these projects? How are we in terms of capabilities? Where are we standing to reach that, to meet that demand on green hydrogen?
Well, if we look into the different regions, I think we could start, for example, with Australia. I think we see Australia, a lot of news about Australia. We see a capability, including vast areas of land, excellent conditions for renewable energy, both for sun as well as on the west side for wind. So all this is excellent starter conditions to invest and to implement renewable power projects as well as green hydrogen projects. In addition, what you see in Australia is it's a super safe political condition there. You have already quite some infrastructure in Australia for energy exports. So very good boundary conditions to go forward there into green hydrogen. And that was also a reason why we have started with our activities in Australia. So we have set up a new office in Perth beginning of this year, and that's our starting point to serve this market into the future. So that was about Australia. I think a really big chance to be one of the big energy exporters in the future. Another region would be like Middle East and North Africa, the MENA region. And there we have also excellent conditions for wind and sun-based renewable energy. That's also basis for the NEOM green hydrogen project. It's quite close towards regions which are the typical energy importers like Europe or like India. And so therefore also excellent conditions for that. And we expect there in the future production cost of green hydrogen around the $2 per kilogram. So a very good situation, and we expect further things to come. We also expect that there will be also in the future regulations coming up in that region to further push forward projects. Then coming to our home turf, to Europe, even we are an international company for sure. Our headquarters is here in Germany, so we are very much looking also for Europe. And in Europe, one of the key areas is the harbor of Rotterdam. I think that is one of the lighthouses here in Europe. We have started and are full swing with the Shell green hydrogen project in the harbor of Rotterdam. It shows how important that harbor is. On the one hand, it's excellent for landing green hydrogen, either as a hydrogen itself or as an ammonia or whatever, and then to further distribute inside Europe itself. It gives a chance to produce, to land also energy into the harbor. It has, even for the first phase, if you look for the first 5 years, and that is the background of the Shell Rotterdam project, it has a lot of located industry in the harbor area, which is a huge area. And there are a lot of industrial processes installed which need green hydrogen for decarbonization. And I think that is one of the first steps forward. And it shows how important Rotterdam is. Rotterdam will be one of the pillars of the so-called European hydrogen backbone. This is a network of a future as well as existing pipelines crossing waters in Europe to support energy distribution, hydrogen distribution from Rotterdam towards all the areas.
That's interesting. And you mentioned Thyssenkrupp is present in different geographies. You mentioned Australia, the Middle East, Europe itself. I'd like to ask you about, from a policy perspective, what are the best practices you've seen from what can we extract from different countries? What are they doing better in order to accelerate the adoption of bringing green hydrogen technology capabilities to scale and make it viable in a short span of time?
Well, there are a lot of companies working on electrolysis technology. If we look now on our way forward and our roadmap towards the future, our clear target is to further say we have already 1 gigawatt supply chain to manufacture electrolysis technology, and we will spend significant time and investment in the coming months and years to further automate and optimize that supply chain. And we will further expand that supply chain to around 5 gigawatt by 2026. So that is all what will come up in the next years. And I think that is key to drive investment costs for green hydrogen projects further down. If you look on the different regions, for sure, it's important to further push forward green hydrogen projects. And if we see developments like in the US, like the latest IRA Act, for sure, this is a significant driver to push green hydrogen projects forward.
Certainly. And let's talk about the electrolysis technology, because it's been around for a while already. And well, at the moment, we're seeing disruptions in supply chains regarding raw materials. It's driving the prices of everything up. And like to ask my question, like how this challenge is impacting the production of these electrolyzers. How is this affecting the already challenging task of bringing the price down of green hydrogen production?
Yeah, this is as you mentioned, what we have seen over the last year, I think is a quite unusual, really disruptive situation of the supply markets. We see raw materials, precious metals really reaching peaks we have never seen before. So we are very happy that we have already an existing supply chain. We have trusted partners in those supply chains, and with that we can really drive existing projects forward to a successful startup. Key for the future will be to further optimize technology to reduce the amount of precious materials inside, as well as other materials, to further reduce overall cost and also dependency of such disruptive market situation.
Certainly. And how sustainable is the production of electrolyzers? Will it be competing also for resources with other renewable energy sources we've seen demand for lithium is expected to grow over the next years, right? Due to the growing number of projects of solar energy, for instance.
Yeah, we see that as stated already, one of the key drivers to further develop technology is to make the technology less dependent on precious metals and reduce the overall amount of metals. On the other hand, we will see that the supply of such resources will also follow the demand. We will see that further supply will be installed around the world, and all this will debottleneck such situations that we don't see any too harsh bottlenecks in the future in supplying of electrolyzer technology or other technologies which are key for providing the energy transition.
Certainly. And in terms of partnerships to develop a green hydrogen technology, what do you think could be, what are the main challenges, and what do you think could be done better in order to come up with more collaborations to advance these technologies?
Well, the overall green hydrogen will lead to an overall significant change in the overall industry in our society over the next years, over the next decades, and it requires significant investment. So what we will see at the first phase is that we have investment in more or less already installed installations. So we will change from gray towards green hydrogen, like in the Shell project or other projects where we exchange the SMR hydrogen towards green hydrogen. So it's a significant reduced over investment. Yeah. So we're still in that case, as we're going into a complete new era, we need a lot of collaboration between industrial partners, between the operating companies, technology providers, as well as the regulatory bodies in specific countries to allow that there are proper business cases available. If we come into the future and talk really about the next 5 to 10 years about significant big energy imports from areas like Australia, Middle East, we need significant investments into the transport system, into hydrogen hubs, into transport pipelines. And for sure, this needs a very tight collaboration between the technology providers, operating companies, as well as the governments to make such significant investments happen.
Certainly. And we can see that to a certain extent, like one of the promises of green hydrogen is that it can make different countries more more independent from an energy point of view, right? We're seeing like, and there's also another narrative saying that there might appear different hydrogen hubs all over the world. We're seeing articles, for instance, in today's Middle East newspaper saying that, talking about the potential of the Middle East as a hydrogen hub. Also in Europe, we see like Greece might become a potential hub for green hydrogen. Where do you see this will lead? Will we see like different hubs on each country, or we'll see some regions that are more would be like the major hydrogen producers? Where are we heading in that sense?
I think we will see both. We will see hubs as well as installation around the regions, because the over request, the over demand for green hydrogen and other further like green ammonia, green methanol products is that big over the next years. As said, we're talking, we just used the name Shell, but also all the other oil and gas companies. Many, more or less all companies in all the industries are investigating and whether and how they will decarbonize their industrial footprint, and all they will move towards further decarbonization. So that means there's a massive demand for that, and to meet that demand, I think there will be both. We will have hubs, super big hubs where already installed infrastructures available. So around that, we will have the further installation of renewable power, and then the additional installation of green hydrogen production there. That green hydrogen can be then further used, for example, to decarbonize industrial setups at that hub, or to further export green hydrogen or green ammonia from that hub to other regions. And so that will be for sure one of the giga-scale first-day applications. But we will have also other more remote installations around the world, as we mentioned, Australia, MENA. Also now, we have not talked about the IRA in the US. I think this is a significant act which will push green hydrogen in the US significantly further. So I would say both, yeah.
And can we expect other countries, other regions to follow suit after this, the Inflation Reduction Act from the US?
It's difficult for me here to make any guessing. I would be very careful. But I think what we can see is that there's certain competition also between the regions, and I could imagine that other regions are really closely following up the developments in the US and will make a decision accordingly.
Certainly. And for my last question, where do you see the green hydrogen? What will it be? What's your take on what will be its share over in the energy mix of different countries over the next few years? Let's say in the next 5 years, let's say.
Yeah, it's very difficult to give an exact number here in this round where we see what kind of percentage green hydrogen will provide in the energy mix. But we will see a significant growing part in that. As said, the size of projects have risen in the last 2 years from, in those days, like a 10 megawatts, so partly single-digit megawatt projects now to multi-hundred megawatt projects, even gigawatt projects. So it takes a certain time until those projects really online. That means they are built, they are started up, and they can operate. So it takes typically 3 to 4 years, depending on where you start, from the financing up to the final startup date of the plant, so that we have also to recognize. But I think in the next 5 years, we will see a significant growth of that kind of projects, and they will come online in 24, 25, 26, and further rising. So it will be a year by year further increase of green hydrogen as a getting more and more important part of the overall energy mix around the world.
Certainly. Some people are comparing it to what the solar energy experience, right? That the generation price has been dropping year after year. They're drawing some parallelism here with what might happen with green hydrogen. We'll have to wrap it up here for this week's interview. Thank you, Dr. Christoph Noeres, for your insights on this topic, and follow Gulf Intelligence on social media, on LinkedIn, Twitter, for more related content.
Thanks a lot, Ignacy. Thank you.